I'm sounding like someone from Extreme Cheapskates. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Marie and I have done this format of videos quite a few times, but I feel like they're generally just really helpful. I love watching people that talk about this as well, sort of within the same lines as the underconsumption. I don't want to call it a trend because it's just like reasonable living. So I want to focus on some of the non-aesthetic ways that you are or can be sustainable. We gravitate towards things being more aesthetic, but in reality, a lot of the things that are reasonable, frugal, sustainable are not something that fits perfectly into an Instagram feed. So here are 15 things that I do in my everyday house, home, lifestyle, trying to be environmentally friendly, low waste, that aren't aesthetically pleasing or that are downright ugly. Let me know if you do any of these things as well, and let me know if there are other things that you do that are also not really, aesthetically pleasing. So whenever I go to a supermarket or a farmer's market, when you get things in bundles, you typically get elastic bands, and we have a tendency of just throwing these things away because we categorize them as packaging. But I have a little drawer in my kitchen where I keep elastic bands from vegetables, like other kinds of produce that I buy. So I always have elastic bands on hand. You can also buy a box of elastic bands, but why would you do that when you get them for free? So instead of throwing those in the bin and then spending money on buying elastic bands, just another thing I save from supermarkets that I've been saving for 10 years, more than 10 years, are jars. Any kind of glass packaging that can be reused. Once again, we spend money buying containers. When we get containers, when we do our grocery shopping, we just throw those containers away. It doesn't make sense. And I don't know if this is just me, but I was personally victimized by the zero waste Pinterest aesthetic where you had to have mason jars perfectly lined up in similar sizes and everything was so super spick and span and nice looking. That's not what my pantry looks like at all, and it hasn't been for years and years because I just use the jars that I get. So if you buy jam, if you buy any kind of spread, you will typically get a jar. I will clean it and reuse it instead of buying new jars. This is not rocket science, and I know. And let me know if you also save your jars. Some people don't do it. I don't understand. It's just, it feels like a no-brainer. The jars that I didn't get from the supermarket, typically I got from a thrift store. I have thrifted or inherited the vast majority of things in my kitchen. That also goes for silverware, for plates, and for glassware. And sometimes it happens that some of these things break or simply just become so worn that they don't feel nice to use anymore. I have a couple of glasses that's been completely tinted, and you can't get it off. At least to my knowledge, you can't get it off. If you can, please let me know in the comments how you do that. But I don't throw away the glassware. That is no longer pretty and clear to look at. I save it and I use it for creative projects. I do a lot of acrylic painting and watercolor. I'll keep my water in it for my watercolor, etc. So even if it doesn't fit in my kitchen anymore, there are so many other ways where we can use these things other than throwing them away. This is honestly one of my favorite things to do. I get this question a lot, like what do you do with fabric scraps or with clothing that has been so worn that it's not really usable anymore? You can't repair it anymore and you don't have textile recycling near you. Also, textile recycling kind of really isn't a thing. Like 1% of textiles are recycled globally. There's not really any real infrastructure to actually recycle clothing. So it's a really, really small amount of clothing that is actually recyclable. Basically, any other thing that you can do will be better than trying to recycle it. It will just end up in landfill. What I like to do, if I can't cut things out into napkins, if I can't cut things out into table covers, or you can also sometimes cut things out and then use those fabric scraps as gift wrapping. If those things aren't possible anymore, if the scraps are too small or just too worn, I cut them up into smaller pieces and I stuff them into my pillows to sort of refluff the pillows. So all my pillows basically, not the ones that I sleep with every day, but more so like couch cushions, that kind of thing. Decorative pillows, I don't know. They all have fabric scraps in them. They have the fabric scraps from when I cut my t-shirts to make them cropped, to fabric scraps from DIY projects, to clothing that is just too worn to do anything else with. It's all in my couch cushions. And I don't even think that's ugly. Like, the result of it, it's very aesthetically pleasing. I honestly think that's one of the smartest things I've ever thought of. Okay, so back to the jars. So when I get jars from the supermarket, they typically have stickers on them, and those stickers kind of leave a residue. Now, I would love to be a person that cares about that to make it look nice, but I don't. I don't care about the sticky residue. I don't even care about the label. Sometimes I'll try to pull them off if I can see they're easy to pull off, but otherwise, like, I'm not really that invested in trying to make it look nice. So once in a blue moon, I will put it into some dish soap and I'll try to get the label off. But if that can't happen perfectly, I'm just gonna use it. I don't care that you can see where it came from. It's fine. Having to say these things sometimes makes me feel like I'm a crazy person. It's okay. When I'm at a restaurant and there is a napkin there, like a disposable paper napkin, and I don't use it, then I have a napkin in my bag, or I will take them home and I will reuse them in my own kitchen. Typically speaking, when you clear the table, even if the napkin doesn't seem to have been used, they will typically change them anyway. So that means like a perfectly good napkin will just have been thrown away. Instead, I'm just gonna keep it in my bag or take it to my kitchen, and then I'll use it to clean up messes in my kitchen. Usually I don't use paper towels or paper napkins in that regard in my home. I use a dishcloth. Every Danish household does that, and it's like such a no-brainer. It's not included in this video per se because I don't think it's an ugly thing. Like, a dishcloth is a very neutral thing, I would say. But keeping disposable napkins in your bag or taking them back home to your kitchen kind of fits in this theme, I would say. I do that often. I've done that for 10 years. It's fine. Every time I talk about this, kind of divides people into two groups: a "what the fuck are you doing" group and a "oh, that's so smart" group. I pick up hair ties if I see them on the street, and then you're probably thinking, but what about like pests, bugs, lice, that kind of thing? Well, I throw it into the freezer and just let whatever could have been in the hair tie die out. That will happen in the freezer, no problem. I have never had any issues. That's very anecdotal evidence on my end there. Why? I don't know, but I pick them up on the street if I see them. I pick weird shit up on the street all the time. It's literally fine. I have this innate ability to just accept when things are broken. And I do that all the time. Sometimes I will try to repair it if it's like a big kind of thing. If it's something that's broken in a significant way, I'll always try to repair it. I love trying to repair things, opening them up and seeing how they work, trying to figure out how I can do this. Just glued these earrings back together as well. Like, I love to repair things. Sometimes things break in a way where they aren't necessarily as functional as they were before. And that has never been a deal breaker to me ever. So I guess like the fact that something isn't perfectly functional isn't an argument or an excuse for me to go out and replace it with something else. I'll just use it, even though it's wonky on one side or wobbly or uneven, or it doesn't switch on right away, or it has its own small quirks. I honestly just think that just adds personality. Like this pair of sunglasses where only this one side can bend because I glued it. I'll still wear these. This is something that I only recently started doing because I got a house and I got the opportunity, because the house has a garden, to do this thing. And it is the lack of doing something, I would say. It is not removing the fallen leaves on my lawn. So having a lawn in the first place isn't necessarily my favorite thing in the world. Now, most of my lawn is not grass, it's moss, which is fantastic. But there are some patchy grass pieces here and there, and we're gonna keep some of them because they're nice for gameplay and for playing ball and like whatever, using the garden in the summer, right? But most of the garden is gonna be more wild anyway, and we're very focused on maintaining good biodiversity in our garden. And one of the things that really benefits that is leaving the leaves, because underneath the leaves and like doing the decomposition of the leaves, those leaves become nutrients and fuel for thousands and thousands of microorganisms. If you remove all of them, you're just back to square one of having a desert of biodiversity. Honestly, in urban areas and even kind of in the outskirts of an urban area like where I live, biodiversity is really struggling. So anything that you can do is a massive help. So looking for native plants, making sure everything flourishes, and doing something that benefits nature rather than benefits the look of your garden. Which means that our garden is full of leaves and I wouldn't have it any other way. There was a time in my zero waste lifestyle where I would have gotten an actual heart attack if someone brought a plastic bag into my home. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. However, I would feel feel my heart beating faster. I would think about it often. I would be annoyed by it. There were tons of feelings related to having this plastic bag in my home. It's kind of not where we are today. Today I'm using my energy in a lot more reasonable way, I would say, and not stressing out over a plastic bag that I didn't even decide were going to be there or not. If I get something in a plastic bag today, I will typically save it because there are plenty of uses. So I store bread in them, like freshly baked goods that I can't put in a container because the containers are too small. So I have the plastic bags and then I reuse them. I can wash them, I can slightly dry them off, and I just use them over and over. Instead of throwing them away without using them, it's better to use them as much as you can. You know, I'm also giving my chargers an extra hand because one of the things that keeps breaking on me as well as on many people are your chargers, and you have to buy new chargers all the time, and I feel like they're purposefully made to be some fragile shit because I so often break mine. So what I do is that I take some tape and I wrap it around the charger in the specifically fragile, vulnerable points to just give it a little bit of a helping hand and to extend its lifetime. It doesn't look great, but it's definitely helped a lot. Completely unrelated question, but do I have brow blindness today? Because I feel like they're darker than they usually are and I feel like I look crazy. I don't know. Let me know. No, actually don't. No, okay, please do. I'm torn. A thing about me that you can always count on is that I will always choose the ugliest produce whenever I have to pick what vegetables to buy. Because the ugliest produce tends to be thrown away. But if they're just ugly on the outside, but perfectly edible, nothing wrong with them, they just have a bump or they just have a little growth or they just don't look like the picture perfect idea, like vegetable beauty standards. So I would much rather choose them first because those are much more likely to be thrown away. And when we throw away like 1/3 of all food that we produce, we really don't have time for that nonsense. So always choosing the ugly vegetables. This is such a grandmother move. I learned this from my grandmothers, which is why I feel like it's okay to say that. But I will always save wrapping paper if I get a gift of any kind. I prefer to wrap my own gifts in cloth, in a little table cover, or in wrapping paper that I have previously been gifted. So I save all this every year and then I reuse it over and over, which means that I unpack my gifts extremely carefully. So I get ribbons, cardboard, boxes, paper, all this kind of stuff from family and friends during the holidays because they know I like to reuse it, to the point where I've had to say, you know, I'm good. Thank you. Something that looks really ugly in my kitchen, but it has to be there and I haven't found a better way. So I'm going for efficiency over aesthetic in this case. It's an efficient recycling system. So I have some canvas bags that hang on my counter where I can sort my waste, my recyclables in. So I have for metal and for paper, etc. But I've found that if I have to take my recyclables every single day and walk with them into a cupboard, it's just not gonna get done in the same way, or they're gonna stand on the counter for ages and it's just not great. So the most efficient way I have found to do this is to have the bags hanging on the counter. That is not necessarily super aesthetically pleasing, but it does mean that my recycling is much more efficient, and I would any day value that over aesthetic. And the last one is an oldie but a goodie. I have talked about this so many times. It's one of the most ugly ones that I have, but it's also one of the ones that sort of, it starts to make sense. It's the shower bucket. So if you're new here, the shower bucket is a plastic bucket that I have. It's also my sick bucket, by the way. Anyway, so I have it in the shower and it collects excess water, and I use that to flush my toilet. If there's no soap in it, I will also use it to water my plants, but typically speaking, there will be soap residues or something in it, which means that it's not so great for plants. So I use it to flush my toilet. Otherwise, you know, that water is just going straight down the drain. I might as well use it. I'm sounding like someone from Extreme Cheapskates. But you know, there is not only this frugal perspective, but it has a, we need to save water, we need to save resources, and these are very low effort, free ways of doing that. So obviously I'm gonna do it because it requires very little of me. The shower bucket stays. Let me know if you have a shower bucket as well. Or let me know if you do any of these things. Or let me know if there are other things that you do that are sustainable, but also not necessarily like pretty things or things that are frugal. Let me know and share with the group. Thank you so much for watching. These were my 15 things that I do that are non-aesthetic, ugly zero waste actions, but I feel like they all make sense and they're free. Look at that, we're also saving money. So thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye.